I'm walking towards her eye to guide her whole body over. And round turns are important because they are used to relax your horse. I'm just a trail rider. Okay. That's going to be the difference between a nice trot and a bouncy trot. A nice gait, a bouncy gait. A nice lope, a bouncy lope. So the first thing, right, is they need to be able to know how to go forward and backwards. I call those the principal yields, okay, forward and backwards. Can my horse go forward off of a feel? And forward simply means the back feet are going towards the nose, okay? Can they go forward off of a feel? Off of a feel, what I mean is I take a hold of their face and I pull and they go forward. All right, that's what that means. Okay, a lot of horses can't do that. A lot of horses rely on the spank of the whip. All right. The next thing they need to be able to do is go backwards. Okay, can they go backwards off of a feel? Again, if I take a hold of that halter, can they go backwards? All right. Forward, backwards. All right, then they need to go forward and backwards off a suggestion. So, can you come forward towards me? Can you go backwards? Okay, forward and backward off a suggestion. Now we're going to split the horse into quarters. All right, you hear me say hindquarters, forequarters a lot. Hind means back, fore, F-O-R-E, means front. Yes, I do have to explain that for some people. It can be confusing. Quarters, a line down the spine, a line across the center of their back. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. Okay, front half, back half. Quarters. We need to separate the quarters of the horse. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get perpendicular to my horse. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to start kind of up by her jawline here. So I'm going to step her forward using my forward yield. There we go. And I'm going to take an arm length away. And what I'm going to ask her to do is yield her hindquarters around her front end. Now, if you don't have your front and back yield working yet, you may have a hard time doing these other yields, okay? Because the way I get a horse to balance on their front feet or on their back feet is by asking them to go forward and backwards, all right? So I'm going to step forward. I'm going to step myself forward towards her hip here. And I want to see her inside hind stepping up and underneath her belly, all right? Now, just because we're yielding the hindquarters doesn't mean we can forget about the rest of the body, all right? I want to see this outside front leg making a little circle around the inside front leg, okay? What's outside and inside? Well, inside, if the horse is bent to the left, as she is right here, the inside is the left side. Okay, if she were bent to the right, the inside would be the right side of the horse, all right? But she's bent to the left here. So I want to see her inside hind stepping underneath her belly. I want to see her outside front stepping around her inside front. Like so, okay? I don't want to see the front foot, the inside front pivoting. What the inside front pivoting is going to do, it's going to lock the horse up and create a lot of tension through her shoulder and up into her neck. So I want to see that inside front lifting up and sitting down, up and down. That's going to help your stops too one day when you go to stop on your horse's hind end. You want the feet to go up and down as they go into the stop, not bouncing, bounce, 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 all right? That's the hind quarter yield. They need to know that in order to lunge properly, okay? That's going to turn into, if you guys watch this again, I'm going to step her forward, walk towards her hip. This hind quarter yield is going to turn into what's called a round turn, okay? Or turning your horse on the inside, because you can see it causes this round shape in her body. It's a round turn. And round turns are important because they are used to relax your horse. All right, you don't want to send a horse out on a circle and have him not be relaxed. All right, so make sure that works on both sides. Step her forward with your forward yield. Walk towards the hip. Now, notice I'm walking towards her hip. She's not yielding her hindquarters, okay? What do? Well, we have a backwards yield to slow her down to get her balanced on her front feet because we've already taught our horses to go backwards. Okay, so I'm going to reach for her nose. I'm going to pull backwards. Okay, that's going to slow her front feet down. That's a backwards yield. And slow the front feet down to get her to balance on those front feet. Now I'm going to make her do the wrong thing here. If she were going backwards here. Come on, do the wrong thing, girl. If she were going backwards Okay, if she were going backwards in that yield, well, all I would have to do is step her back forward to get her balanced on her front feet. Okay, balance on the front feet by pushing your horse forward or backwards. Again, this is a round turn. It creates a round shape in your horse's body, and round equals relax. Okay. Now it's important that you remember that for when we actually start lunging our horse. Okay. Round equals relax. It's a round turn. It is a turn. Okay. The next piece is a 4/4 yield. 4, F-O-R-E, meaning front. Now this time we're going to move the front end of the horse around the back end. Okay. Again, you're going to need your forward and backward yields working in order for this to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk towards her jaw. Okay, if I point my nose and my belly button towards her jaw, I'm going to hold the stick where my nose and my belly button are pointing. It comes out her offside ear. Okay, that's going to add a bit of forward to this turn, and it's going to help her balance properly on her back end and go around. Now, if she were leaving the pivot like this, I'd use my backwards yield to back her up and get her balanced on her back feet. If she were leaving this turn backwards, I'd use a forward yield to get her balanced on her back feet. Okay, so focus more, to get these yields working, focus more on where the horse needs to balance in order to get this yield. Now, they need to know this to lunge, because a horse needs to know how to swing its shoulders to really get out of her own way. Okay, to get out of their own way, they need to swing their shoulders for the lope. They need to swing their shoulders for the turn. They need to swing their shoulders left and right to get heavy on their hind end, which is going to be your collection or your engagement. That's where all of your power is going to come from, is that back end. So now we have forward, we have backwards, we have hindquarters, we have forequarters, and now we need one more thing working for us. We need a sideways or lateral yield. Okay, I call this a drift, because we take the whole body, we take all those yields and we move it sideways. All right, so what that's going to look like, okay, we have the forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this forward and I'm going to add a little bit of a backward yield to it. This is why you need those principal yields working, the forward and the backward, principal yields. Hindquarters, forequarters, lateral, I call those your purpose yields. I'm going to add some backwards to this and step towards her eye. Okay? Now, because we're at a walk, 60% of her weight is on her forehand. Fore meaning front. So I'm walking towards her eye to guide her whole body over. Okay? Your mistake would be, add the backward yield, walk towards the stirrup. Well, she's balanced on her front end. You're going to get a round turn. Okay? Or a tighter circle. You won't get lateral. Some of your horses are going to go straight through that. They're going to go busting straight through that. You have a backward yield to fix that. Some of your horses are going to go backwards. You have a forward yield to fix that. Okay? Well, Steve, I asked for sideways and my horse just went forward, or it just stops and goes back. Yeah, it'll go backwards and forwards as they learn it. But you've already taught go backwards. You've already taught go forward. Okay? You balance the back and forth until you have a nice lateral yield. Okay? And make sure you get all these things working on both sides. Coming back towards you at a backward yield. Good, and just enough to balance her to go sideways. Okay? Now right there you can see too, she lost her forward. That's what my forward yield is for. Drive the horse forward. Okay? There she goes. Crossing over the front, crossing over in the back. If you have a really hard time with this, take this exercise to the wall. For the forward, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, forward is the back feet going towards the nose. All right? Think about that. The back feet going towards the nose. So what I want is for these yields to come together. I want the nose and the chin to tuck, which is going to allow the shoulder to swing by allowing the hindquarters to go forward towards the nose. Okay? So instead of going like this, I'm going to take my hand down and I'm going to drive the forequarters toward the nose. Okay, you guys see the difference there? Now she can get light in her shoulders, swing the shoulders out, drive the hindquarters through. Say your horse starts pulling away from you, because they will. They don't know how to circle yet. You can reach down your rope, because you've already taught your hindquarter yield. You can change their direction using a round turn. Why a round turn? Because it's going to supple their top line. It's going to get them feeling better about coming in and going forward and around you. Okay? It's going to cause them to feel better about that. All right? So you're going to use your round turn to correct that. Notice, there's nothing mindless about these circles. Your horses are thinking a lot. All right? So we're going to go down with the hand, okay, to tuck the chin, drive the back feet towards the nose, all right, which is going to loosen up the shoulder. And when your horse pulls, run your hand down the rope, yield the hindquarters, change direction. Now, notice, I changed direction back to my circle, didn't I? Okay, if she pulls, yield the hind, change direction back to my circle. Yield the hind, change direction back to my circle. Okay, look at that. Now your horse is learning how to circle. They're not learning how to run away from you with you holding onto the rope. Very good. Your horse is learning how to swing their shoulders out of your way. Well, I'm just a trail rider. Okay. That's going to be the difference between a nice trot and a bouncy trot. A nice gait, a bouncy gait. A nice lope, a bouncy lope. Or a frantic lope. Or I have to be up in the front. I have to be up in the front. I have to rush. Okay, take the rush out of it. If they're bouncy, if they're tight in the back, they're not going to be comfortable. So it might feel like they're rushing a lot. Okay? So, the hindquarter yield adds, or it changes direction in a comfortable way. It's a round turn. Round equals relaxation. Okay? All right. The backing. When we start circling our horses, all right, the backing part. Some of your horses are going to tend to fall to the inside or crowd you. Or if you're a person who tends to be a little meek, you know, like you're kind of in here and allowing your horse to get to shove you into a pivot, which you will get dizzy if you get shoved into a pivot. Okay, what you're going to have to learn to do is take that backwards yield, push the shoulder out. All right, push the shoulder out for your lateral yield. Okay, so if my horse is crowding me, one thing I can do, backwards, push the horse out, forward. Okay, do that a couple thousand times, and your horse won't be falling in on the circle anymore. Yes, I said a couple thousand times. You can get that done in 5 days, 10 days. Okay. The other thing, if your horse is really falling in, or their nose is going the wrong way and their shoulder's coming in, what I do in that instance is I'll do a quick hindquarter yield. Now they need to be able to back up. Okay. So it's yield the hindquarters. Now lift your shoulders up and get back. All right, get those shoulders up and back. That's a more extreme case. You know, a horse is really crowding me. A horse is really falling in. And if you've already taught these yields, it won't be a big deal. All right. So if she were really crowding me on this side, take the hindquarters, back up, back. Good. Okay. I mean, we're really troubleshooting your problems here today. Yield the hindquarters. Get up off that front end. Get up off that front end and throw your front quarters over. All right. Okay, last thing I want to point out as far as what your horse needs to know first. The front quarter yields, where does that come into play? That comes into play on every send that you do. If I want to send her to the right, again, don't do this. Don't be the guy. You're going to send me a video. My lunging isn't working, and I'm going to see you going like this, stepping to the wrong side of the horse. Okay, you do that 1,000 times, you teach your horse to fall in on the forehand. Okay, you teach your horse to fall in on the forehand. Because watch this. I step to the wrong side of her. I want her to go left, so I step over here, and I pull. She doesn't turn. I take her head and pull it on her front end. Okay? When I send her out, it's an isolation of the forequarter yield and then an isolation of the forward yield. Okay? It's 2 steps. It's not point, cluck, spank. All right? I'm going to isolate the front quarter yield. I'm not going to step around to the left if I want her to go right. I'm going to point her nose where I need it to go, pivot on the back feet. Pivot on the back feet, then go forward. Now I have all this space between me and my horse, and I didn't pull her across my toes. Okay? So that's what your horse needs to know in order to lunge. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you found that helpful, hit the subscribe button, like the video. Leave me a comment if you have any comments or questions about horses, horsemanship, if you'd like to see anything. And check out my website, www.thenaturalhorseman.com, to check out my schedule, upcoming events. And yeah, let me know if you need help with a horse. Thanks for checking in, and I'll see you next time.